What up, Doc?
This isn't serious. We could make you delirious. You should have a healthy fear of us. Cause too much of us is dangerous. So dangerous, we so dangerous.
It's the leading cause of preventable death in the United States, and there are 3 million people under the age of 18 who are already under its spell. On this edition of True Life, you'll meet Pam Laffin, a single mother of 2 suffering from a 15-year addiction to cigarettes. You'll find out how she got hooked.
I didn't see how much that movie affected me.
How smoking ravaged her body.
Right now I'm holding my hand as still as I can.
And you'll witness her heroic struggle to survive.
Every time I think that this is gonna be the last hardest thing, there's something else.
That's next on True Life. I Can't Breathe.
I started smoking when I was 10, and I started smoking for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason that I can think of, even though I didn't see it at the time, I went to see the movie Grease in the movie theater. I think I was really affected by that movie because all my life growing up, we moved around a lot. I never really had any roots anywhere, never stayed in any one place. The character Sandy moved to a new town from a different country. She wasn't accepted right away, and people made fun of her because she was too sweet, too nice, too good. And at the end of the movie, she decides to put on really tight black clothes and high heels and curl her hair and smoke a cigarette. Then all of a sudden, everybody likes her, just having fun. Well, at the time, I didn't see how much that movie affected me, but I did get a perm so that I could have curly hair like hers, and I started smoking. The first time I smoked, I lit the cigarette, and I took probably 3 puffs of it, and I started coughing, and I felt nauseous, and I was dizzy. And so I decided to keep trying it until I learned how to inhale correctly so that I didn't make myself sick. And after, I think maybe the 5th cigarette, I was able to smoke the whole cigarette and I didn't get sick. Now I know that the reason why that happens is because cigarettes are full of poisons, and getting nauseous and getting dizzy is your body's way of telling you that you're putting poison in your body. And after a while, your body just gets used to the poison and gives up. By the time I got it right, I was addicted.
Is it your view that cigarette smoking is addictive?
To me, what does that word mean?
If they are behaviorally addictive or habit-forming, they're much more like caffeine or, in my case, gummy bears. I love gummy bears, and I just love them. And I want gummy bears, and I like gummy bears, and I eat gummy bears. And I don't like it when I don't eat my gummy bears. But I'm certainly not addicted to them.
When I was 21, I started developing bronchitis. I went to a neighborhood clinic. They gave me antibiotics. In a couple of days, the antibiotics started to work, so I just continued on with my life. And a little more than a month later, I got bronchitis again. I was diagnosed with bronchial asthma. And he started to explain to me how the cigarette, the heat of the smoke burns everything on the way down. It burns your taste buds. It burns your throat, burns the walls of your bronchial tubes, it burns your cilia cells. I leave these little hair-like cells in your lungs that help to keep the passageways clear of dust and mucus. And he told me how the smoke burns all the way down into your air sacs, and then that causes emphysema. And I said, you know what then? When I get emphysema, I'll quit smoking.
Patients who have emphysema are usually taking all of their energy to take a breath. They can barely talk in a sentence. Often they have oxygen and are really, really struggling just to maintain themselves. This is a healthy human lung. Very little in the way of smoke or even urban living. These are the air passages, and these are normal. This person probably never saw a cigarette. This is a lung removed from a patient who had emphysema. The first striking difference that you can see is that there's a lot of black. This is all carbon buildup from smoking. The structure of the lung itself is destroyed. The little air sacs become larger and larger over time, and we're unable to exhale our air. You can see these bubbles on the lung that I can push up. These bubbles are emphysema.
Wouldn't a cigarette taste good right now? Wouldn't you like a Marlboro?
I noticed over the next couple of years, my breathing got worse and worse. It got harder to do things. Couldn't really carry groceries up the hill or upstairs. It was getting harder to lift my children and carry them around. When I was 23, I got my own doctor. He had me use this thing, it's called a peak flow meter. And I think a normal, healthy person should be able to move the needle up to 800. I couldn't even move the needle past 25. He couldn't even believe I was alive. He said that he wasn't sure, but on some of my x-rays, it looked like I may have the beginning stages of emphysema. Well, since he said he wasn't sure, and I was only 23, I kind of just dismissed that thought, and I didn't believe him. And I went on with my life, and I kept smoking. So when I was 24, one day in January, and my face was completely gray, and I had big dark purple circles around my eyes. I couldn't breathe. I had an asthma cough that wouldn't stop. I really thought I wasn't gonna make it through the night. So finally at that point, I decided that I needed to go to the hospital. The doctor at the hospital started yelling, I need an IV of Solumedrol, which is 1,000 milligrams of steroids. And he was saying, she needs oxygen, and just yelling all these orders, and I was getting really nervous. It was still another week before the asthma attack stopped. And once I was able to breathe more comfortably, they started running tests to find out what was wrong. The results came back pretty quickly. The hospital doctor came in and he said that the CAT scan showed that I had emphysema.
Emphysema is a chronic disease that is a killer, and you cannot reverse emphysema once it starts.
Hearing that there is no cure, I started to develop anxiety. I knew then that my career plans were probably gone, and my youth was definitely gone, and any hope that I had ever had for a normal life was gone. And so I had to mourn the loss of who I had hoped to be. And I had to face the fact that I absolutely had to quit smoking. And so I had to mourn the loss of my best friend, the cigarettes. Because from the time I was 10 until I was 24, I was a smoker. My entire adult life and part of my childhood, I was a smoker. Quitting smoking was like losing a friend. My lungs were in the same condition as a 70-year-old's lungs. The doctors decided that I should think about having a lung transplant. Without the transplant, I would definitely die, and I would have died slowly.
The transplant offers an opportunity for someone who is near death to have a reasonable life again, to be able to do the things that they need to do, go to the grocery store, take the kids to school, those things.
I had a meeting with my doctor, and he was trying to tell me, you know, you have to take medicine every day for the rest of your life. I said, no problem. I figured I could overcome all of that, and that I would just have this wonderful, normal life, like I was getting a second chance.
Unlike elective surgical procedures, there's no advance notice when this is going to happen. So patients like Pam walk around with a beeper knowing that it could go off at any time, and they would have to drop what they're doing and come immediately to the hospital.
My doctor called me at 5 o'clock in the morning. He said, come right away. They had a lung there waiting for me. And I went in, and I signed some consent forms, and they started to medicate me. They wheeled me into a room, and they put me on a metal table, and that's the last thing I remember.
She was rolled up on her side. Her arm is brought up over her head. A large incision is made between the ribs, 12 to 14 inches long.
And when I woke up, what I had just done hit me like a ton of bricks. First of all, I realized that I had just made the biggest commitment of my entire life. It's not like I could go back and say, no, no, I want my old lung back, forget this.
About 80 to 85% of people who have a lung transplant are alive a year afterwards. By the time you get to 5 years after the lung transplant, about 50% of the patients are alive and 50% have died.
Some patients are looking at this as the cure-all, that they're going to be normal again. And when they have a transplant, there is a realization of all of the problems that they now are going to face. They've traded in one set of problems for another.
All my friends say, oh, I want to be like my mom when I grow up, and I can't say that. Because if I said that, then they would think I mean I want to start smoking when I'm 10. And I want to not be able to breathe when I grow up and have a lot of transplants. If I was her, I think I would die, because I tried not breathing for a while to see what my mom feels like, but I can't do it.
Pamela had a great response to her transplant. It was able to come off of oxygen, had very good lung function.
I was optimistic. I figured I could just have this wonderful, normal life.
The issues that Pam and all patients have to deal with once they recover from the surgery procedure itself is dealing with the complicated medical regimen that people are on after transplant.
Today I want to show you my medications. This is prednisone. This is the medication that causes fullness in my face. Depending on how much of the prednisone I take, my face can be bigger or smaller.
The side effects are substantial, both in terms of how people feel and in how they look.
Right now I'm holding my hand as still as I can. It'll be like this for as long as I have to take this medication, which will be for the rest of my life.
You've come a long way, baby, to get where you got to today. Virginia Slims. This is the taste for today's woman.
Pam Laffin is truly fighting for her life, and this fight is going on television.
Tonight, how this Malden woman is using her story to get others to stop smoking.
What is rather remarkable about this woman, who is surviving with just one lung for now, is that she's only 29 years old.
This is your statement to the world, I gather.
It's a message that I feel that I need to get out, yeah. When I was diagnosed with emphysema when I was 24, I started speaking. I started going to schools and speaking and talking about how dangerous tobacco is and what happened to me.
And you're well aware of the uncertainties ahead in your life, and your kids are too.
Yeah, we're all aware of what could happen.
Well, hang in there.
Thank you.
Hang in there. Thanks for joining us this morning.
So now it's been just a little over 3 years since my transplant. Almost 11 months ago, my transplanted lung started to go into rejection.
Everyone who gets a transplant has episodes of rejection. Some can be very, very severe to the point where our body destroys the transplant.
So they told me that the last thing that they usually do is radiation. So I went through 6 weeks of radiation from my neck down to mid-thigh area. And then I had a procedure called a bronchoscopy. They take a scope and they put it down my throat into my lungs, and they cut off pieces of my lungs. They test these pieces of lung to see if the rejection is there or gone. I was optimistic, and I was really sure that the rejection was gone. When they got the results back from that, they had me come into the office. I went to get my biopsy results from Dr. Riley, and he said that there's still active rejection. There's still active rejection in my air passages. So the rejection became classified as chronic, and there's nothing else that they can do for my transplanted lung. Since the rejection started, my health has quickly gotten worse. I travel in a wheelchair. I can't prepare my own meals. I can't clean up the house. I can't help my children get ready for school in the morning. I can't get out to my car by myself. I can't run errands by myself. I spend most of my days sitting here on this couch.
When I think of her dying, I feel like I'm gonna have to go to her funeral, and people are gonna look at me and think, oh, I feel bad for her. And I'm gonna be like the only one of my friends that has a dead mom.
My children know that I could die, but they have chosen to believe, and I've chosen to let them believe that I most likely won't. I'm happy about the way they're turning out, the kind of people that they're becoming. They're so helpful and so loving, and they spend a lot of time with me, and if I don't live to see them grow up, then I'm not gonna know how they turn out. That's the thing that scares me, is what's gonna happen to them. Every time I think that this is gonna be the last hardest thing, there's something else. So sometimes I just wanna give up and not bother doing this anymore, but I've got the kids, and they need me, and I need them. Well, I had hoped to get married someday, have somewhat of a normal life, a normal job. I guess deep down I still have that dream, but I've buried it so deeply that I can't feel it anymore. Now all I am is a mother, a patient, and my cause, the poster child for why people shouldn't smoke.